I have an announcement to make. Her gaze found mine again, as she took Leo's hand and wrapped it around her waist. I watched Chloe hold up the megaphone, her voice sharp and triumphant, cutting through the roar of the engines and the chatter of the crowd. Every eye in the lot turned toward her, and she drank it in like she'd been starved for attention. "I'm officially with Leo now," she shouted, grinning up at him as if I wasn't standing 10 feet away. "We're together, and it's serious." Leo wrapped an arm around her waist, his gaze flicking to me with a lazy, arrogant smirk. He knew exactly what he was doing. He'd always known how much I loved her, how deeply I'd cared. And now he was parading her in front of me like a trophy. Chloe's eyes locked onto mine, daring me to react. She wanted to see hurt. She wanted to see anger. She wanted proof that I still ached for her, that even after everything she'd done. I dropped to my knees and begged her to come back. But I didn't. I just stood there, calm and indifferent, with Aria's hand loosely wrapped around mine. Her fingers were warm, steady, a quiet anchor in the middle of the chaos. When Chloe saw the lack of emotion on my face, her smile wavered. I'd expected the old me, the one who'd moved mountains for her, the one who'd forgiven every mistake, the one who'd loved her so fiercely that he'd lost himself in the process. But that guy was gone. Aria squeezed my hand gently, as if she could read my thoughts. "Shall we go?" she murmured, her voice soft enough that only I could hear. "This doesn't have to be our problem." I nodded. "Yeah. Let's get out of here." We turned to leave, and that was when Chloe snapped. "Ethan!" she screamed, dropping the megaphone and rushing after us. "Wait. You're just going to walk away? After everything we had?" I stopped, but didn't turn around. "We had nothing," I said quietly. "Not anymore." Leo stepped up behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Chloe, come on. He's not worth it." She shrugged him off violently. "Shut up. I'm not talking to you." The crowd had gone silent, watching the drama unfold with hungry curiosity. Whispers spread like wildfire, and I could feel their eyes burning into my back. Before, this would have terrified me. The attention, the embarrassment, the thought of people laughing at me. But not anymore. Chloe stepped in front of me, her eyes red, her voice cracking. "You really don't care, do you?" she said, disbelieving. "All that love you had for me, it just vanished. Because you hit your head. Because you're with her." She jabbed a finger at Aria, venom in her tone. Aria didn't flinch. She stepped slightly closer to me. Not aggressively, but protectively. "He's not with me because of an accident," she said calmly. "He's with you because you let him be." Chloe's face twisted with rage. "I asked you to pretend. I didn't ask you to steal him." "I didn't steal him," Aria replied. "He chose to stay." I looked at Chloe. Really looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel anything. No love. No longing, no anger. Just nothing. She'd spent months complaining that I was too much. Too clingy, too careful. Too suffocating. She'd wanted space. She'd wanted excitement. She'd wanted to feel alive again. And now she had it. She had Leo. She had her motorcycle, she had her freedom. She had everything she'd ever asked for. And she was miserable. "I don't know who you think you are," Chloe said, her voice shaking. "But you can't just erase us. You can't act like none of it mattered." "It did matter," I said quietly. "For a long time. But you didn't care when it mattered. You only care now that you're not the one in control. Her mouth fell open. She'd never heard me speak to her like this. I'm firm, unapologetic. The old Ethan would have apologized. Would have begged for forgiveness. Would have put her feelings above his own. Not this one. I loved you, I said, and the words felt like a weight lifting off my chest. I loved you so much that I ignored how you took me for granted. I ignored how you talked about me behind my back. I ignored how you thought I was boring. How you wished you were with someone else. I ignored all of it because I thought love was enough. I paused, looking into her eyes. It wasn't. Chloe's lower lip trembled. Tears finally spilled over. But they didn't move me. I'd wiped away enough of her tears to last a lifetime. Ethan, please. She whispered. I was stupid. I was bored. I didn't mean it. Just come back. We can fix this. For a split second, I almost hesitated. Old habits died hard. The part of me that had loved her for years wanted to reach out and hold her. To tell her it was okay to forgive her. But then I remembered the bathroom door slamming. The way she'd laughed about how easy I was to control. The way she'd handed me to her best friend. Like I was a toy she'd grown tired of playing with. I thought of Aria's perfect omelet. The way she'd known exactly how I liked it. Even though no one else ever did. The way she held me when I slept. Quiet and gentle, never demanding anything. The way she looked at me like I was someone worth seeing. I thought of the peaceful days I'd spent in her apartment. No tension, no walking on eggshells. No fear that I was too much. I thought of the kiss we'd shared. And the way my heart had raced. Not out of guilt, but out of something real. I'm not coming back, I said. Chloe's face crumpled. Leo stepped forward as if to comfort her. But she pushed him away again. Go. Go away. She screamed at him. All of you. Just leave me alone. She turned and ran. Leaving the megaphone on the ground. Leaving Leo, leaving the crowd. Leaving me. I didn't chase her. Aria looked up at me, her expression soft. Are you okay? I nodded. Yeah. I'm more than okay. We left the race lot without another word. Walking away from the noise and the drama. And the girl who'd broken my heart. The sun was setting, painting the sky in pink and orange. And the air felt light, like a storm had finally passed. We walked in silence for a while. Hand in hand. Thank you. I said quietly. Aria glanced at me. For what? For not pretending. I said. Not really. I think you could have just gone along with her lie. But you didn't. She smiled faintly. What makes you think I wasn't just acting? Because you know how I like my omelet. I said. Because you don't look at me like I'm a burden. Because you kissed me back. Her cheeks pinkened slightly. But she didn't deny it. When we got back to her apartment, the quiet felt like home. I kicked off my shoes and sat on the couch. And Aria sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. The TV played in the background. But neither of us watched. Ethan, she said suddenly. Her voice serious, there's something you should know. My heart skipped a beat. I turned to look at her. What is it? She took a deep breath. As if she was nervous to say it out loud. I didn't start pretending when you lost your memory. She said quietly. I've been like this for a long time. I stared at her, confused. What do you mean? I didn't hate you. She admitted. Not even close. I acted like I did because Chloe was my best friend. And she was so in love with the idea of you. Even when she wasn't really in love with you. I thought if I showed you any kindness it would ruin everything. I thought it would ruin our friendship. My throat went dry. When she asked me to pretend to be your fiancé. She continued, I should have said no. I knew it was wrong. But I was selfish. I wanted a chance to be near you. Even if it was a lie, even if it was just for a little while. She looked away as if she was ashamed. I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm sorry I went along with her. I didn't think you'd ever look at me. Not really. I reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers brushed her cheek. And she leaned into my touch. Her eyes fluttering shut. You didn't lie to me. I said. Not the whole time. Some of it was real. I could tell. She opened her eyes, and there was something hopeful in them. Something warm and bright that made my chest ache. Which parts? She whispered. The parts where you looked at me like I mattered. I said. The parts where you took care of me. The parts where you kissed me back. Her breath caught. Before she could say anything, I leaned in and kissed her. This time it wasn't under the cover of being drunk. It wasn't a test. It wasn't a lie. It was real. She kissed me back immediately. Her hand sliding into my hair. Pulling me closer. The world around us faded away. The TV, the quiet apartment. The mess we'd left behind at the race lot. There was only her. When we pulled away, we were both breathless. I don't want to pretend anymore. I said. Arya smiled a soft, beautiful smile that made my heart race. And don't. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel like I was chasing someone who didn't want to be caught. I didn't feel like I was too much or not enough. I felt home. We spent the rest of the night curled up on the couch, talking quietly, like we've been doing it for years. She told me about how she'd watched me love Chloe. How she'd hated that I didn't see how much I was worth. I told her about the quiet dreams I'd never dared to say out loud. The omelette every morning, the peaceful evenings. The love that didn't feel like work. For once, everything felt perfect. But life isn't perfect. And lies, even the sweet ones, always catch up. Around midnight, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I ignored it at first, but it buzzed again and again. Persistent. Arya frowned. You should check it. I reached over and picked it up. The screen was filled with missed calls and texts. All from Chloe. My stomach dropped. The most recent text was sent only a minute ago. I opened it. I know you didn't really lose your memory. I froze. Beside me, Arya noticed my expression. Ethan, what's wrong? I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. How? How could she possibly know? The screen of my phone glowed harshly in the dim light of Arya's living room, the words burning themselves into my retinas. I know you didn't really lose your memory. My thumb hovered over the screen, paralyzed. The quiet sanctuary we had just built over the last few hours felt like glass cracking under immense pressure. Beside me, Arya shifted, the warmth of her shoulder pulling slightly away as she sensed the sudden shift in my posture. Ethan? She asked again, her voice softer this time, laced with a sudden, sharp anxiety. What did she say? I couldn't speak. I just turned the screen toward her. Arya's eyes scanned the bright text. I watched her pupils dilate, the soft pink flush on her cheeks draining away, leaving her pale. She looked up at me, the air completely knocked out of her lungs. She knows. I slipped up, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow to the chest. At the track. When I was yelling at her. I told her that I knew she talked about me behind my back. I told her I knew she thought I was boring. I brought up things from before the accident. Things the amnesiac version of me shouldn't have known. Arya stared at me, the silence stretching between us, heavy and suffocating. The television hummed in the background, some late-night infomercial playing on mute, but all I could hear was the frantic beating of my own heart. Ethan, Arya said slowly, carefully. When did you get your memory back? I closed my eyes, shame washing over me in a hot, uncomfortable wave. This was the part one had been dreading. I had planned to tell her, I really had, but I wanted to bask in the reality of us for just one night before I ruined it with my own deception. The second day in the hospital, I confessed, my voice barely a rasp. Arya flinched. She physically pulled back, her hands dropping to her lap. The second day? Ethan, that was weeks ago. You've known everything for weeks? I woke up, and the fog was gone, I said, leaning forward, desperate to make her understand. I remembered the crash. I remembered waking up to the blinding lights. But more than that. I remembered the fight Chloe and I had right before I got on the bike. I remembered her packing a bag to go to Leo's place. I remembered the absolute, crushing weight of knowing she didn't love me anymore. Arya didn't interrupt. She just listened, her eyes wide, searching my face. When the nurse came in and asked me my name, I almost answered normally. I continued, staring at the floorboards. But then Chloe walked into the room. She looked so exhausted, Arya. Not scared for me. Just inconvenienced. And then she looked at you in the hallway, and I heard her whisper that she couldn't deal with this right now because she was supposed to be with Leo. I swallowed hard, the memory tasting like ash in my mouth. In that split second, I made a choice. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I pretended the fog was still there. I let the doctor diagnose retrograde amnesia. I let Chloe hand me off to you. Because if I remembered, if I was the old Ethan, I would have begged her to stay. I would have humiliated myself trying to win back a girl who despised me. The amnesia, it was my shield. It was the only way I could let her go. I finally looked up at Arya. Her expression was unreadable, a complex mask of hurt, relief, and confusion. You lied to me, she whispered. All those days in my apartment. The times I cooked for you. The times I held your hand and told you stories about your own life, you knew. I knew, I admitted, my voice breaking. But Arya, I swear to God, what I felt for you during that time wasn't a lie. At first, I was just hiding. But then, I started really seeing you. Without Chloe taking up all the oxygen in the room, I saw you. I saw how gentle you were. How kind. I saw the way you remembered how I liked my coffee, how you never made me feel like I was a burden. The more I stayed, the less I wanted my old life back. I didn't want the old Ethan to exist anymore, because the old Ethan was blind to the most amazing person right in front of him. Arya looked down at her hands. A single tear slipped free, tracing a silent path down her cheek. I felt so guilty, she choked out. Every time I looked at you, I felt like a monster. I was lying to a vulnerable man, pretending to be his fiancée just so I could experience what it was like to be loved by him. We were both hiding, I said, reaching out. I stopped an inch from her hand, afraid she would pull away. You hid behind the fake engagement. I hid behind the fake amnesia. We were two cowards who found each other in the dark. Slowly, Arya turned her hand over and intertwined her fingers with mine. Her grip was tight, almost desperate. What do we do now? Chloe isn't going to let this go. You embarrassed her in front of everyone today. You rejected her. If she exposes you, let her, I said. The words left my mouth, and for the first time in my life, I truly meant them. Let her expose me, I repeated, the conviction solidifying in my chest. Let her tell Leo. Let her tell our friends. Let her scream it from the rooftops. I don't care anymore. The only person whose opinion matters to me right now is sitting right next to me. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Chloe, answer me, Ethan. I know you're faking it. You made a fool out of me today. If you don't meet me tomorrow morning at the cafe on 5th, I'm going to tell everyone exactly what a psycho you are. Arya read the text over my shoulder. A deep sigh escaped her lips, and the fragile peace of the apartment shattered completely. I'll go, I said, locking the phone screen and tossing it face down onto the table. I'll handle her. No, Arya said, her voice suddenly firm. She looked up at me, the unshed tears replaced by a fierce, quiet resolve. We'll go. She dragged me into this mess when she asked me to take her place. She used me as a pawn to cheat on you with Leo. I'm not hiding from her anymore. Arya, she's going to be vicious. She'll say anything to hurt you. She already has, Arya replied, a sad, knowing smile touching her lips. She took my friendship for granted just as much as she took your love for granted. It ends tomorrow. The morning sun felt excessively bright, mocking the heavy knot of tension twisting in my stomach. The cafe on 5th was a pretentious little spot Chloe had always loved, overpriced lattes, minimalist decor, and huge floor-to-ceiling windows so everyone inside could be seen. She had chosen it on purpose. It was a stage. Arya and I walked in together. We didn't hold hands, not out of fear, but because the air felt too charged, too serious for casual affection. Chloe was sitting in a corner booth. She looked terrible. Her usually immaculate hair was pulled into a messy knot, her makeup was smudged beneath her eyes, and the arrogant, triumphant glow she'd worn at the race lot was completely gone. She was furiously tapping her nails against the marble table, a half-empty cup of black coffee sitting ignored in front of her. When she saw us walk in together, her jaw tightened. Her eyes locked onto Arya, and a flash of pure, venomous betrayal crossed her face. We slid into the booth opposite her. I sat straight, my shoulders relaxed, letting the silence stretch until she couldn't take it anymore. So, the happy couple, Chloe sneered, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper so the neighboring tables wouldn't hear. Or should I say, the happy liars. You wanted to see me, Chloe. I'm here. Say what you have to say. I kept my voice perfectly level. No anger. No hurt. You faked it, she hissed, leaning over the table. You faked the whole damn thing. You manipulated me. You made me think you were practically brain damaged just so you could what? Spy on me? Punish me? Punish you? I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Chloe, the world doesn't revolve around you. I didn't fake it to punish you. I did it to escape you. She flinched as if I had slapped her. Excuse me? You heard me. I woke up in that hospital bed with a concussion, remembering every miserable detail of the last year of our relationship. I remembered the screaming matches. I remembered the coldness in your eyes. And then I heard you complaining to Arya that my accident was ruining your plans with Leo. Chloe's face drained of color. She glanced nervously at Arya, then back at me. You heard that? I heard everything, I said calmly. You wanted out. You didn't want the guilt of dumping a guy with a brain injury, so you pawned me off on your best friend. You literally handed me to Arya and said, pretend to be his fiancé so I can go fuck Leo in peace. So don't sit here and play the victim, Chloe. I just gave you the easiest exit possible. You made me look like an idiot yesterday, she fired back, her voice rising. A few heads turned in our direction. She lowered her voice, trembling with rage. You stood there and rejected me in front of Leo. In front of everyone. You made me look like some desperate ex when you were the one obsessed with me. I was obsessed with you, I admitted freely. I loved you so much I let you destroy my self-worth. But seeing you from the outside? Watching you parade Leo around, watching how easily you threw away years of our life together without a second thought? It cured me, Chloe. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Chloe's eyes welled with tears, but they were tears of pure frustration and bruised ego, not sorrow. You're a sociopath. I'm going to tell everyone. I'm going to tell Leo. I'm going to tell your parents. I'm going to ruin you. Go ahead, Arya spoke up for the first time. Her voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that made Chloe snap her head toward her. Oh, the traitor speaks, Chloe spat. You're pathetic, Arya. You always wanted my leftovers. You've been staring at him like a sad little puppy for years, and now you finally manipulated your way into his bed. Arya didn't shrink back. The old Arya, the one who would have apologized, who would have tried to keep the peace, was nowhere to be found. She sat tall, her gaze steady and piercing. I didn't manipulate anyone, Arya said softly. I picked up the pieces you shattered. You treated Ethan like an accessory, and you treated me like a mirror. You only liked having me around because it made you feel bigger, louder, and prettier by comparison. But I'm not your mirror anymore, Chloe. And Ethan isn't your accessory. If you want to run and tell everyone that he faked his amnesia to get away from your toxicity, do it. But you'll have to explain why he did it. You'll have to explain how you abandoned him in the ICU. Chloe's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked between us, searching for a weak spot, searching for the crack in our armor that she could pry open. But there was none. We were a united front, built on the wreckage she had left behind. Leo knows, Chloe finally whispered, a desperate, nasty smile curving her lips. I told him last night. He thinks you're both freaks. He broke up with me because the drama was too much. She laughed, a brittle, hysterical sound. So congratulations. You ruined my relationship. You ruined your own relationship, Chloe, I said, sliding out of the booth. I looked down at her, feeling a profound sense of emptiness. There was no lingering hatred. There was just pity. She was a black hole, desperately trying to pull everyone into her void because she couldn't stand to be alone in it. Goodbye, Chloe. Don't contact us again. Arya slid out next to me. We didn't look back as we walked out of the cafe, the bell above the door chiming a cheerful, final note. The moment the crisp morning air hit my face, a massive, suffocating weight lifted off my shoulders. The lie was dead. The past was buried. I looked at Arya. She was trembling slightly, the adrenaline of the confrontation crashing down on her. I took her hand, interlacing our fingers, and she squeezed back so hard it almost hurt. You okay? I asked gently. I feel like I just woke up from a 10-year nightmare, she breathed, looking up at me. I lost my best friend today. I know, I said. I'm sorry. Don't be, she smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I gained everything else. The weeks that followed were a quiet revelation. True to her word, Chloe tried to scorch the earth. She posted cryptic, angry messages on social media. She told anyone in our mutual friend group who would listen that Ethan was a manipulative liar who had faked a brain injury, and that Arya was a backstabbing slut who had orchestrated the whole thing to steal him. Some people believed her. A few friends stopped returning our texts. The group chat we had been part of for years went dead. But surprisingly, the fallout was a blessing. The people who mattered, the ones who had actually visited me in the hospital, the ones who had seen how Arya had single-handedly cared for me, saw through Chloe's frantic victim narrative. Even Leo, of all people, ran into me at a hardware store a month later. I had tensed up, expecting a fight. Instead, he just shook his head, offering a tired smirk. Man, Leo had said, leaning on a cart of lumber. You really dodged a bullet. I don't care if you faked the amnesia or not. After 2 weeks with her, I would have faked my own death. It was the closure I didn't know I needed. The ghost of Chloe was officially exorcised from our lives. Without the looming threat of the past, Arya and I began to build our future. And it was beautifully, remarkably boring. There were no screaming matches in the rain. There were no jealous games at parties. There was no constant anxiety that I wasn't doing enough, saying enough, or being enough. Instead, there were Sunday mornings filled with the smell of coffee and the sound of soft jazz. There were grocery store runs where we debated for 20 minutes over which brand of pasta to buy, laughing until our sides hurt. There were quiet evenings on the couch, her legs draped over mine, reading books in comfortable silence. I learned things about Arya that the old Ethan had never bothered to notice. I learned that she painted watercolors when she was stressed, hiding them in a portfolio under her bed because she didn't think they were good enough. I framed 3 of them and hung them in the living room. I learned that she had a fierce, encyclopedic knowledge of classic cinema, and we spent entire weekends working through her meticulously curated watch lists. I learned how she tasted when she woke up. I learned the exact spot on her waist that made her shiver when I touched it. I learned the sound of her genuine laugh, not the polite, quiet chuckle she used to use around Chloe, but a full-throated, joyous sound that made my chest expand with pride every time I earned it. 6 months after the race lot, we moved out of her small apartment and into a place that was truly ours. It was a loft downtown, with exposed brick and massive windows that let the sunlight pour in. The first night in the new apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes and smelling of fresh paint, we sat on the floor eating takeout pizza. Arya had a streak of flour on her cheek from our failed attempt to bake cookies in an oven we hadn't figured out how to use yet. She was wearing one of my oversized flannels, her hair pulled into a messy bun. I looked at her, chewing my pizza, and a sudden, overwhelming wave of emotion hit me. It wasn't the frantic, heart-pounding panic I used to mistake for love. It was a deep, resonant certainty. It was an anchor dropping to the ocean floor. "What?" she asked, catching my stare. She wiped her mouth self-consciously. "Do I have sauce on my face?" "No," I said softly. I set my paper plate down on a box. I crawled over to her, the hardwood floor cool against my knees. I reached up and brushed the flour off her cheek. She looked at me, her dark eyes softening, the corners of her mouth turning up into that gentle smile that had saved my life. "I love you," I said. It was the first time I had said it. We had danced around it, shown it in 1,000 different actions, proved it every single day. But I had been terrified of the words. The last time I had said them, they were a plea. A beg for someone not to leave me. Now, they were a gift. Arya's breath caught. The pizza slice in her hand slowly lowered back into the box. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were the bright, happy kind. "You do," she whispered. "I do," I said, leaning closer, my forehead resting against hers. "I love you so much it terrifies me, Arya. I love the way you see me. I love the life we have. I don't ever want to go back to the person I was before I woke up and found you." She dropped her hands to my chest, gripping the fabric of my shirt. "I've loved you since the day Chloe introduced us," she confessed, the tears finally spilling over, tracking down her cheeks. "I used to hate myself for it. I thought it was a curse. But Ethan, loving you is the best thing I've ever done." I kissed her, tasting the salt of her tears and the warmth of her mouth. The kiss deepened, hungry and desperate and utterly completely real. We fell back onto the carpet, surrounded by boxes of our shared life, tangling in each other, erasing the last lingering ghosts of our past. 1 year later. The smell of butter and sautéed onions woke me. I stretched, the sheets tangling around my legs. The bed beside me was empty, the sheets still warm. I smiled, running a hand through my messy hair, and swung my legs out of bed. The morning sunlight was streaming through the massive loft windows, painting the hardwood floors in a warm, golden glow. From the kitchen, the soft sound of a Norah Jones record played over the record player. I walked quietly down the hall, leaning against the doorframe of the kitchen. Arya was at the stove. She was wearing one of my t-shirts, swaying her hips slightly to the music, expertly flipping an omelette in the skillet. I stood there for a moment, just watching her. A year ago, I was a broken man, clinging to a lie because the truth was too painful to bear. I had thought love was supposed to be a battlefield. I had thought it was supposed to be exhausting, a constant trial to prove my worth. I watched Arya slide the perfect, golden omelette onto a plate. She sprinkled a dash of chives over it, exactly the way I liked it. She turned around to grab 2 forks and jumped slightly, pressing a hand to her chest. "Ethan. You scared me," she laughed, her eyes crinkling. "Sorry," I smiled, walking over to her. I wrapped my arms around her waist from behind, pulling her back against my chest. I buried my face in her neck, inhaling the scent of vanilla and coffee. "Good morning." "Good morning," she murmured, leaning back into me. "Breakfast is ready." "You know," I said, my voice vibrating against her skin. "I've been thinking." "Oh boy. Before coffee? That's dangerous." I chuckled, turning her around in my arms so she was facing me. I looked down into her eyes. They were bright, clear, and full of complete, unshakable trust. "I've been thinking about the amnesia," I said softly. Arya's smile faltered slightly, a flicker of old shadows crossing her face. "Why? We haven't talked about that in months." "Because," I reached into the pocket of my sweatpants. I realized something. The doctor told me that sometimes, when people experience trauma, their brain resets. It wipes the slate clean so they can start over. I pulled my hand out of my pocket. "I lied to you about the medical part," I continued, my voice trembling just a fraction. "But I didn't lie about the reset. My life didn't start until I opened my eyes in that hospital room and saw you holding my hand." Arya's breath hitched. Her eyes dropped to my hand. I slowly sank to one knee on the kitchen floor. The sunlight caught the simple, elegant diamond ring nestled in the small velvet box in my hand. Arya's hands flew to her mouth. A soft, strangled gasp escaped her lips. "Arya," I said, looking up at the woman who had saved me from the dark. "You were my safe place when I was pretending to be lost. And you are my whole world now that I'm found. I don't want to spend a single day of the rest of my life without you. Will you marry me? For real this time?" The tears came fast, spilling over her fingers as she tried to muffle her sobs. She nodded, once, twice, and then frantically. "Yes," she managed to choke out, dropping to her knees right in front of me. "Yes. Oh my God, yes." I slid the ring onto her trembling finger. It fit perfectly. She threw her arms around my neck, tackling me onto the hardwood floor. We lay there in the sunlight, laughing and crying, the perfect omelette cooling on the counter above us. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was born from a lie, built on a deception, and forged in the wreckage of a broken past. But as I held Arya against my chest, feeling the steady, rhythmic beating of her heart against mine, I knew one thing for absolute certain. It was real. And it was ours.